Welcome, people. Today I interview a friend that I met in the UK. My guest today is Goda, and she's here to help me learn some cultural information about Lithuania. Welcome, Goda. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a few things about you.
I am from Lithuania originally. I grew up there and went to school there. And when after school, I went to UK and lived there for 4 years, where I studied and work as well. And now I'm back to Lithuania for about 2 years.
I want to take you back to your childhood, and I would like to ask you when you were ill, do you recall receiving from your parents any care practices or home remedies which you used to consider as common treatment practices and you now know they were special cultural practices?
In Lithuania, we have a lot of those home care practices. I think there is some similarities with other countries. There is no similarities, but we do have a lot of things like eating garlic, putting garlic, raw garlic on the sandwiches. If your throat hurts, you do boil hot potatoes, then put it in a scarf and put it on your neck to heat it. We also do have a lot of treatments with the herbs, a lot of kind of herbs. We are picking it usually in the autumn and then using it all winter to do all the treatments, all the tea from the herbs and everything. So there is a lot of additional treatment things going on.
Can you describe to us a thing you were doing as a child with your family or with friends, which you thought it was a common behavior or common practice among people, but you now know it was something that people in Lithuania actually do?
I think one thing what we did, as I said before, it's usually a tradition, a thing, especially in autumn, to go to the forest, all family, and pick everything there from mushrooms, berries, and herbs, and everything you can find that can be used for the winter. I think a lot of Eastern European countries do that.
I remember you told me that people have this habit that they go to the forest to gather their own mushrooms. We do similar thing, but we mainly go to gather like tea, mountain tea.
For the mushroom, I think it's crazy for Lithuanians. We're now even having an issue because if there is like this autumn, there was a lot of mushrooms. So everyone is going to the forest to pick it and picking in a large amounts. So now we even having some regulations how it should be done. And
Really?
because Lithuanians are crazy about that. They just doing it for fun sometimes. They picking so many mushrooms that they have like, for example, grandparents will pick so many mushrooms that they will then share with everyone around, like giving, if you have a guest coming to your house, you will give him some mushrooms because you have too many. So that's how crazy it is.
Could you describe to us a typical day of your childhood at any age?
If it was like a school day, so it's really common, like going to the school, going home, doing your homework, and then usually going to the yard playing with other kids would be a typical day. And if it's not a school day, I usually was staying with my grandparents. So there was a lot of like small works that you helping them to do, but it's mostly also outside because we usually grow every vegetable so and everything on our own, and also those going to the forest pick something or going to the some fields to pick some herbs or anything like that.
Could you describe to us one or two iconic buildings of the town you live or your hometown, which you think they would be great choice for a card postal?
So as I grew up and was living in Kaunas, the second largest city in Lithuania, the Kaunas is very rich of Art Deco architecture, which is mostly common in Paris, actually in Europe. And I think also the UNESCO think about this Art Deco architecture, and we have quite a few buildings that looks quite nice. One of them is main postal office, which is also have all the curves of the Art Deco building, all the modernity and also like authenticity of that period. So I think any Art Deco building in Lithuania, which is quite in good state, would be a good for postal car.
Could you describe to us a local festival or a cultural celebration at your hometown or nearby? What is the celebration for? What are some common cultural practices there?
So one of the more interesting and not so common celebration is Užgavėnės. It's kind of religious thing, but also not, because it's a day before the Christianity Day of Ashes, when the passing starts, like few months passing starts before Easter. So the day before that, it's also in UK, for example, it's called Pancake Day, usually February. So in Lithuania, it's quite different. Not a pancake day. It's we do pancakes, but it's also kind of a small Halloween for us because traditionally it's the day when you uh, kick the winter out. So you have to scare the winter. So the kids would be also dressing all kind of costumes, which usually represents a devil, and will go through the houses and ask for sweets and pancakes. And then after that, we will gather in main city um, uh, place or somewhere else where it's for every city it's different place where we gather, and when we celebrate dance and everything, there is also a traditional uh, kind of fight in between two guys, that which one is called Lashininis, which means kind of fat guy, and also Kanapinis, which means a slim guy. And the fat guy represents winter, and the slim guy represents spring. And they are fighting, and the spring guy should win because we're kicking the winter out. And you, when burning like a big doll on a fire, it's actually called More. That also represents all the winter and everything what happened in the year. So it's a big celebration actually, and you have to eat a lot. The main thing is you have to eat a lot because after that it should be that period of passing for like until the Easter.
Wow, that was really interesting. Let's move on. What kind of folk art can a person buy in the countryside or in folk festivals at your hometown or nearby?
I think most common thing for like folk art in Lithuania is the amber, because there is a lot of amber in Baltic Sea, and Lithuanians picking it from the very old ages and doing a lot of things, mostly jewelry with the amber, like all kind of rings with the amber, necklaces and things like that, and sometimes even use it for like application for the paintings or something like that. So it's kind of Lithuanian gold, as we call it, the amber.
Could you tell us if somebody would want to hear the traditional music of Lithuania or some folk music from Lithuania, what kind of instruments or singing practices should a person expect to listen?
The instrument would be harmonica. It's played a lot, and the singing practice is actually really interesting because we have that one uh, singing thing that called sutartinė, and it's preserved by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage of humanity, because it's the singing way when you have no instruments and you sing like if someone started singing, when someone starting singing the same things from the later on, and it's a lot of voice doing it, and it sounds kind of messy but also harmonized, or if someone's singing and someone's singing background some other words not the same, like it's kind of harmonized singing in a different, I don't know, you not sing everything like one person singing same. If it's like few person, you're not singing the same thing at the same moment, we're singing different. Sounds really interesting.
So they're singing in different tones and they create like a special echo. Is it something like that?
Not tones, actually. It's like, for example, if it's three people, the one might start singing like the song, and from some point, someone else starts singing it also from beginning, but kinda late. It sounds really interesting. Or if someone starts singing some different words as well, it might be the case, or someone is doing. But it's not that all singing the same words at the same time. You can be singing same words, but at a different time.
Wow, this sounds really interesting. I might have to.
Yeah, you have to listen maybe to understand what I'm saying, but it is interesting, and it's like, yeah, I think that it's in included in UNESCO reserved list, and it's really like Lithuanian thing.
Okay, okay. I'll make sure I do it after the podcast.
Okay.
Okay. Is there a scary folk tale that parents normally tell their children so they comply?
There is a lot of scary tales in Lithuania, and most of them are like teaching kids something that you should do or should not do. Um, One of the most like popular ones is called Eglė Žalčių Karalienė, which means Eglė is the name, and it's Eglė Grass Snake Queen, which tells a story about a girl which was supposed to marry a, a grass snake which was living in the sea and was going to live in the sea with the grass snake man, which appears to be actually a really nice and good man when he shows his real face. And but when she was living under the sea, she wanted to visit her family, which was in the land, and she needed like some safe word for to call her husband when she want to come back to sea, when he lets her go to visit her family. But her family didn't wanted her to come back to live in the sea, so they make her children to say the safe word. And when they say the safe word, her family killed her husband, and she wasn't able to come back to the sea. And when she was really devastated about it, that her husband was killed and she was not able to come back to the sea, and she was really angry. So she then put a spell on her children and on herself, and everyone became a trees. And that's how we have the trees names, like for example, Agla means actually Christmas tree and everything. That's how you get, and it's kind of also scary if you listen.
Okay. Can you name a superstition that most people in your hometown hold? You don't need to say if you believe it or not.
Uh, I don't know. We have a lot of superstitions, I think. Uh,
It can be a silly one. I can tell you, for example, that in Greece, if by accident you and the person that you speak to say the same word at the same time for some reason, it's considered as you are going to fight. So, to prevent the bad luck, you have to search a different red object around and touch it.
yeah.
Do you have this?
Yes, yes, yes. I know it was really, really common as we were the kids to do it if you say the same word and you go it to do it, like the red thing to touch it. And we even said it had like a saying like touching red, that's touching air, and touching something. You have to say some special words to it to be legit. So yeah, I think we have a lot of those common ones. And you, if the birds fly in your um, window, it means something bad is coming, or something like that.
So the next question is about dialects and language. Are there any spoken variations of the main language or different dialects in Lithuania?
Oh yes, there is a lot. We are not a large country, but we have like four main dialects, separated by regions. And then in the regions, we have even more going on, like some smaller variations of those dialects. And one of the dialect is really different from the language. If you speak like really correctly in that dialect, I wouldn't understand some certain things, what you say.
Okay, I see. Okay, let's move on to the food section.
All right.
Ooh, the best section. Now, before everything, I want to say that I actually visited Goda a few years ago in Lithuania, and she helped me do food tourism in Lithuania. I asked from her to whatever we eat, even if it's the simplest food, to be something Lithuanian. And it was an amazing experience, and I encourage everyone to do the same. Lithuania has amazing and very interesting foods. It's really, you should give it a try. So, God, I would like to ask you, what is a common street food in your hometown?
So yeah, I think you remember a lot of foods, but um, talking about street food, as a street food itself, it's not really common in Lithuania at all. We usually, like from the traditions, we don't go to like eat out traditionally. Now it's like getting changed or anything, but it's not common. Anyway, now I would say that everyone would go and eat out those šaltibarščiai. It's like most popular thing in Lithuania. I'm not sure if you ate it because it was cold actually when you visited, because it's like cold beetroot soup with the milk.
I ate this one. I think it was the first day.
It might be, yes. So that's quite interesting, quite common for some countries around us, like Ukraine, Russia, Poland, but nowhere else. So for my experience, this soup, like, it's really liked by Lithuanians, and everyone bringing friends would make them to try it, and someone would like it and someone would not like it. For my experience, I had the experience with like preparing the soup for Polish people and for Thai people. So the Polish people were like, "Oh, we really like it because it's like also something similar to their food," and the Thai people wouldn't understand it at all. Beetroot and cold soup and everything else, and it's pink. The soup is actually pink.
I'm pretty sure I tried this one. I remember I tried this one. And also, I know it's not food like with the typical common street food notion, but I remember there were like nice stands that you could buy honey bread.
Yes, yes, yes. Honey bread is quite common as well as honey is the thing for Lithuanian as well, but it's really important and kind of cultural thing.
Could you describe to us some traditional foods? What makes them cultural? I know you mentioned now the soup. Is there, I don't know, anything else? For example, I remember I ate one soup, I think it was mushroom soup, and it was inside a bread basket.
Oh yeah, we have that one. I think it's not like deeply traditional, but it's common from some region. To make it like a soup in a bread basket, yeah. I think everything else in Lithuanian food, it's quite heavy. Soups are will be like a lot of ingredients. It's and also heavy. Main food is from potatoes. It's everywhere. Potatoes is everywhere. We do potato pie, potato like kind of dumplings, potato dumplings with the meat, but the large ones. I think you tried everything, and it's quite heavy. And the other thing we do is eating everything with sour cream. It's like our main sauce. We're using it everywhere with a lot of like big amounts of it.
Now that you mention that, I remember. Do you remember when we went to buy crisps and the main flavors were like sour cream and chive?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's the most popular ones in Lithuania.
For example, we don't have these flavors back in Greece. Our most commons are like salt, and the other one is oregano. And I was like, oh, these are the most popular flavors. We don't have them at all.
Yeah, yeah. For example, in Lithuania, like plain soul crepes is not popular at all. We don't understand it. It's no taste for us. Like, yeah, yeah. In our shops, you can find a lot of things with sour cream flavor or just sour cream that which can be added to everything. As I remember, at the first night, I think I give you those. Um, Cottage cheese pancakes, which was also was should be eaten with the sour cream and the jam together, mix of it.
Yes, it was plum marmalade from your grandmother. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so even the sweet things can be eaten by sour cream. Someone is eating pancakes with sour creams, but all like soups should be included with sour cream. All the main dishes should be eaten by sour cream. So it's everything about sour cream.
And the last question of the section, if I would go to a random house in Lithuania and I would open the fridge or like the cupboards, what kind of foods should I expect to find?
So yeah, it would be sour cream for sure. The Lithuanians was also would have some potatoes at the home because we do a lot of variation of dishes with the potatoes. It's mostly potatoes, bread, meat, sour cream.
Let's move on. You said as well that you spent some time in the UK. While living in the UK, do you remember adopting any practices or behaviors from the main culture or other cultures you came across?
I think I might even adopted more things from the other cultures than from UK itself. Like from the people that were around from other countries and they were telling you or doing something like eating habits or anything like that. Maybe it's because I also didn't really like UK cuisine. It's more like other cultures' kitchen is more like tasty for me. So I think that's how I adopted things like eating a lot of hummus and stuff like that. And also maybe some behavior, but I'm not kind of sure if I can name something really particular.
No problem, no problem. I see. And is there anything that still has influence in your life? For example, you mentioned hummus. Now that you're back, do you still do that?
Yes, I do that. And I was actually looking through every shop in Lithuania, like what they have as a hummus already prepared one, and what it tastes, and which one tastes most like similar to one I can buy in UK. So it's kind of crazy, but I did that, and I know now where I should buy my hummus to be like same taste as it was in UK. So yeah, yeah, there is some things like that that I actually with the food even that I try to find something that I used to eat in my living in UK.
Let's move on. There is a multiculturalism section I have on the questions. So I assume you were initially like me, growing up in a country without much cultural variation among people. Now, after moving to the UK and see how a multicultural country works, and after going back, do you think this had an impact on how you think or how you see other people from other cultures? Do you want to talk to us about this?
Oh yes, I think it's a lot of influence from the living in UK because it's like really multicultural, and I studied and worked with a lot of people from the many different countries with the many different experience, and I think it's kind of opens your eyes and you see more like how people live in other regions, in other countries, what is most important for them and everything, and it's kind of change your opinion about everything. You maybe become more tolerant, more like understand people from everywhere. Yeah, I think it's a lot of influence that it due to the person to make you know to know a lot of people from different countries, and I think it's really really good for you by understanding things, how it works, why it is like that in different countries and everything. Because living in one country, you just know your common issues and what's going on in your country. You mostly concentrate in that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And when I was living back in Greece, I didn't pay attention in things that were happening around the world, or I didn't think that they are important to my small world that I thought I was into. Now it's like, yes, that you said is you're more open minded, you care to see what else is going on around the world and see that actually other people might have similar problems with you or even worse problems than you think you have.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Could I ask your opinion on something? There are some people that are afraid that if you bring two or more cultures, different cultures together, there will be a loss of cultural identity, at least for one of the cultures, and that they might even be eliminated. Other people believe that by bringing people from other cultures together, eventually all cultures will be merged into one. So every culture will be the same. What is your opinion?
It's kind of hard to say, actually. I think the things are changing anyway, if you bring it or not, even if the culture is closed one, like no one is bringing anyone from other culture. Uh, Times are changing, and I think everything is changing. But yeah, maybe when you put together, everyone is adapting something from the person near him, like some traditions and everything. And it's kind of a thing that cultures when mix, but I'm not sure how it's gonna end. If it's gonna mix, then will be no identity at all, or it's gonna be one identity will win against other. I don't think that one identity can win against other identity because as if I, for example, bringing taking something from you culturally, I think you will take something from me. So it might be more like mixing thing going on. I think the most thing that I now noticed about mixing the cultures, I think it's the food because for example in Lithuania we adapting so many different food from different cultures, and it's so popular for everyone to like Asian food, for like to Italian food or something else. Like some people would say, oh, we don't want to eat like any traditional food because I like that food more. And even mixing the variation of the food, like more adapting Also, like taking Asian food, but making it more Lithuanian style or something like that.
What you say is really interesting. The food is one of the first things that have, let's say, invaded other cultures, which is, of course, great thing. I personally love the fact that I have tasted all these different flavors from different cultures. And I know being here in the UK was a great opportunity for me to try these. Now, you mentioned before that people from different cultures come together. Do you think that if I would see you doing something and it serves you really well, and I would say, oh, God is doing that in a way that is really cool and easy, I will abandon the way I used to do it or the custom that is used in Greece for that, and I will adapt her way of doing it. Is this a threat to my identity as a Greek person if I just leave aside this and adopt something else? What's your opinion on that?
I don't think it's like a threat. I think that you won't like keep everything and every tradition as it was before anyway, because it's like it's something stays and some things goes because times is changing and we are adapting anyway. And I think it's not a threat. I think it's good for people creativity to see how things can be done and create something new. Because yes, it's good to know your history, to know your culture and your things, what you were doing, how it was done and everything else. But it should be also always upgrade, and because things are changing and you cannot stay in the same way that you were doing it like 100 years before and do it at the same way now. You have to upgrade it. And if you see something doing it good and you know how to adapt things and do it in that certain way and maybe do it like your thing together with other thing and create something new, because you have to create something new. So it's also good. I don't think it's a threat. I think it's like improving things, going forward.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. I totally agree with you. It's a natural thing for cultures to evolve during time. They don't stay the same. I think a culture 200 years ago and today, there should be variations because of evolution. And you said something really important, that if you know your history, you can't just forget your culture after all. Yes, we can mix like cultures with each other, we can exchange things, but at the end of the day, if you have strong roots, you won't be alternate as some people are scared. I think that if all cultures would today decide to evolve, I don't think they would become identical, because we all start from different historical point, from different traditions. So I don't think it's a harmful thing for us to evolve.
Yeah, I think so. And also, one thing that actually creates a lot of those cultural things in every country and every region. Also, to not forget that we living in different places with the different weather, with the different landscape, with the different things, that it's not up to us, but it is different. And it's also really, really, really important when we think about tradition, but because many of the traditions was born because of the certain things, that because like in certain weather you cannot keep food like that, you have to do something with it. And that's how you, I think you get it, how it, I think that all traditions are becoming traditions. It's also from the really, really, really simple things that people should do. They want to adapt to the places where we are living in. And it's not, it will not change. We will still live in different places, in different, with different conditions, which also have a lot of influence to the tradition.
You're definitely right. Traditions, yes, as you said, have been created and influenced by external factors like natural factors from things around you. Just to end our conversation, could you tell us a few things that a tourist should do while being in Lithuania to experience the culture?
Oh yeah, so I think it's definitely to try food. You might like it, you might not. It's heavy, it's strange. I'm not sure if I would be really, really like fan of the kitchen if I would not be Lithuanian and used to it. But you still have to try it because it's a lot of like different things. Also, I think you can visit our cities, it's quite nice. I would suggest if it's good weather, also try to visit forest and our nature because it's quite Lithuanian thing. We love our nature, we love our forests and trees and everything. So you can experience it. And I would also suggest if you like a history person to go some museums which is related to not the history from the old times, but maybe history from the 20th century, because it's quite a lot of things about that history. They are quite sad, but also quite interesting and rich. So yeah, I think those would be the things that you should do when you go into Lithuania.
Now that you mentioned that, I remember the great museum you have in Kaunas. It's actually a really unique experience to go there. Maybe we shouldn't mention more, but yeah, I think people will know. What's the museum's name?
It's Nine Fort.
Oh yes, 9/4.
It's like a prison from the 20th century for the Jew people, and then later on for the Lithuanians themselves, for the Russia. So yeah, it's quite sad, but also quite authentic atmosphere if you're not afraid to experience it.
Yeah. Okay, and the last question of the conversation. Please teach us a word or a phrase to say if we ever come across to a person from your country.
So I think you know some words already, but I think most common will be thank you, which is ačiū. It's like sneezing sound.
Achu, yeah.
Yes. And then hello would be labas.
Labas. Labas Koda.
Yes, it's great. You kind of speak in Lithuanian.
Koda, thank you so much for accepting my invitation and being here.
Thank you, Sissy. It was really interesting discussing all the topics with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.